Good morning, gang. Happy Thursday morning. Okay, for those people that don't pay attention to their local politics, you need to. Okay, we have some extremely troubling news coming out of the state of Maine this week that we all need to pay attention to. Because if we don't pay attention or don't care what happens in our local communities, we get screwed. And Maine is the latest example of them. Now, Maine's an interesting state when it comes to politics. It's separated into two districts, okay, for federal elections. The area around Augusta, which overwhelmingly votes Democrat, and the rest of the state, which overly votes Republican. Pretty much kind of like every other state. Look at Illinois. Chicago votes Democrat, the rest of the state votes Republican, and guess what? The Democrats destroy the entire state. Okay. Well, two things, and listen through long enough so you can hear both of them, because the second one I'm going to go into a lot more detail, because that one really affects us. The first thing that came out yesterday is Maine has now joined the coalition of states that wants us to have a national popular vote. Okay? Which means no more electoral college, which means whoever gets the most votes by individual in the state wins any federal election, wins the presidency. Okay? Basically, what Maine voted themselves to do yesterday is to make them irrelevant in any sort of presidential election. How do I mean that? Well, if we go to a national popular vote, the only states that really matter at that point are New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, California, Texas, and Florida. That's it, okay? Because if you can win the majority of those, you basically have now pretty close to cemented the national popular vote. Look at 2016. Hillary Clinton screaming and yelling, I got more votes, I got more votes. Yeah, but you didn't win the Electoral College. If we have a national popular vote, Hillary Clinton was president in 2016. Okay, just give you that as a thought. Okay, you look at the map. The GOP traditionally wins 2/3 of the states in the country, 90% of the land mass in the country, and loses because people are crowded in the cities, and so that's where most of the people are. So we now have a bunch of states, including Maine, that are in this National Popular Vote Coalition, to the tune of now 209 electoral votes. Mind you this, once they get to 270, that's it, okay? Then it's very easy for them to go to Congress and say, we want to change the Constitution, get rid of the Electoral College, and all their Congress critters will agree. Here's the states that participate in this National Popular Vote Coalition. Tell me what they all have in common. And also, the District of Columbia is in here too, but they have electoral votes. District of Columbia, Delaware, Hawaii, now Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, Colorado, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, California, Illinois, and New York. Do you see a pattern there? This is the latest effort by the DNC to steal every federal election. They're at 209 now. They still haven't included other traditional Democrat states or typical, okay, not always. Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, those aren't on there. Pennsylvania, which happens to go that way. Virginia's not in here. You add those states decide, guys, we have a national popular vote. This is where it is extremely important to pay attention to your local politics. Again, remember, the majority of the people outside of Augusta in Maine are conservatives. Yet for some goofy reason, this is the state that has Susan Collins and Angus King as their senators, neither of which have a D behind their name, but I think pretty much everybody can agree both of them are Democrats. Okay, they don't represent the people, they represent the teeny tiny little spot around Augusta. That's it. So that's the first part that should be concerning to you. The second one is the one that is extremely scary. So far, here recently, Maine has confiscated, for all intents and purposes, 56 farms in Maine. How are they doing this? Legally, through some real shady trickery. Okay. We all know what forever chemicals are, right? You know, chemicals that go into the ground or whatever, and you just can't get rid of them. PFAs, okay? We know those, okay? There have been 56 farms that the state of Maine has shut down due to contamination from PFAs, that they have more than 20 parts per trillion of PFAs in their soil. Okay. To give you an idea what that is, that's like a thimble full of water in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Okay, give you this. And so the state has basically taken the business licenses away from these farms, shut them down, says your soil is too contaminated, you can't grow food. And you think, oh, that would be a good thing. Except, don't even begin to think that this wasn't any sort of long-term plan. Within the last decade or so, Maine has participated in one of these sludge recycling programs where the state went out to farmers and said, hey, we've got all this sludge that, you know, we can't dump in the ocean or whatever. We need to get rid of it, and it would make great fertilizer for your farmland. And so a bunch of farms decided to participate in this sludge recycling program. And they had all this sludge dumped onto their farmland. They tilled it all in, and the stuff grew. Great. And then the state decided, hey, you know, we're going to start looking for places with contaminated soil. Where should we go first? Oh, let's take a look at that list of farmers who participated in our sludge program, and we'll go test their soil. And guess what? They all failed. And so now the state has said, you can't farm here anymore. And the farmers are trying to figure out what to do. And so the state has come up with this brilliant idea to come in and, well, we'll help you. We have $70 million that we can assist farmers who've been disrupted by this. So they're buying the farmland at, get this, $2,600 an acre. Where can you find land anywhere for $2,600 an acre? Maybe out in the middle of the desert in New Mexico, okay? But any sort of land, $2,600 an acre is ridiculously cheap. Now, the next thing they want to do is expand this. They want to make it more restrictive, down to 4 parts per trillion, and any soil would be considered contaminated. I pretty much guarantee that you go out in your yard and you live in suburbia right now. If you tested your soil, you would be over 4 parts per trillion. Pretty much any soil, any water, anything, at least in the United States, but I'd be willing to bet the planet, okay, is over 4 parts per trillion. Why? Oh, I don't know. You know, we've had pollution in the world forever, okay? You know, you look at an electric car. An electric car contributes something like 400 times more pollution to the Earth than a internal combustion engine. You go, what? Doesn't have any exhaust. I'm not talking about carbon dioxide. Okay, because of the fact that I talked about this maybe about a month ago, how much the electric cars wear out tires so much faster. I mean, ridiculously faster than a internal combustion engine because of the weight of the cars. Okay, the weights of the batteries. So all that rubber, all that petroleum product, all that synthetic rubber that tires are made out of, all gets onto the road and the rains wash it into the fields, wash it into the ground, etc., etc., etc. There's one way. Noticed any chemtrails lately? We all know, anybody with a brain knows those are factual. It's not contrails. You can look in the sky and see the difference. Two planes flying basically at the same time, and it's amazing how one's got this miles-long tail behind it, and the other one, it's dissipating very quickly, right? What do you think's happening? We know about cloud seeding. We know about spraying aluminum in the skies, etc., etc. I'll give Tennessee credit. Tennessee this week passed a law that says you are not allowed to spray anything in the state of Tennessee in the air. Not that it matters. They'll just go, oh, okay, you know what? We'll fly over Kentucky or Virginia or North Carolina or anything right along the border. We're not in your airspace. It drifts, okay? At least it's a start. So they're trying to do whatever they can to confiscate more farmland. And it's not like Maine hasn't lost a whole ton of farmland as is anyway. Something like since 2017, there's millions of acres of farmland that has been shut down for one reason or another, okay? Whether or not the people got out of farming or whatever. Maine is losing farmland quickly, or farmers. And now the state is doing whatever they can to take out the farmland. You pair this with what we talked about that they were trying to do in Oregon a few weeks ago. This all comes down to, guys, they are trying to prevent the people from growing food, from feeding ourselves. We'll be obligated to eat the bugs, right? Because that's going to be more healthy for the environment. Do you see what's going on? Again, just like the national popular vote, the liberals in Maine decided that the people cannot grow food. They're going to do whatever they can to shut down farmers, including the use, like I said, of trickery. Hey, use all this sludge, it's great. Oh, you used that sludge? Oh, well, that was contaminated, so now we have to shut your farm down. Oh, crap, what am I going to do? This is my family business. Well, we'll give you $2,600 an acre for it. Oh, yippee. That'll pay, I can sell an acre of land and pay rent for 2 months in an apartment somewhere. Right? Think about it that way, what rents cost. Okay. And $1,300 a month for rent, that's probably Maine's rent. This is how we are getting screwed by the powers that be. Let's just use that. The liberal powers that be. They are trying to do whatever they can on a federal level, on a local level, on a state level, to screw the people. I mean, all of New England is part of this idiotic national popular vote thing. Maine just joined. Okay, Maine, the last bastion of conservatives in New England. I mean, New Hampshire can kind of go that way. There's definitely areas in New Hampshire, other around the seacoast or the Manchester. Pretty much you've got a conservative base in New England or in New Hampshire. But Pay attention to this stuff. Where are you going to get your food from? Oregon doesn't want people to have water. Many states won't allow you to collect water. Do you see where all this is going? This is why being loud, voting for something more than just somebody who's got a letter behind their name. Susan Collins has an R behind her name. Please, somebody explain to me when the last time it was that she did anything that had conservative principality behind it. You can't. She's not a conservative. Okay, Angus King won't. He's an independent, but find something where he's ever voted not with Democrats. Okay, he's a Democrat. He just doesn't want to admit it. And then get down into Janet King or anything like that and hold the rest of the state. Okay, they're just screwing the people. We need to stop this. Period. This is how we lose this country quickly. When they're preventing people from drinking water, growing and eating food. I mean, this is how you take over people. They are literally trying to starve us out, people. You need to understand that. And they'll do anything they can. Make it look legal because they tricked you. But when have you ever known the corrupt liberal left not to play skirt along the lines, cross into illegal territory, and ignore it anyway? I mean, after all, the Constitution's just a piece of paper, right?